Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Today's video is actually a two-part video. It is Dollar Tree porch decor. So today I'm going to show you how I made the giant Hello Fall sign using mostly Dollar Tree items. And in the next video, I'm going to show you my entire porch setup, how I made all of the planters and my little bench. And I really hope that you enjoy this video and you stick around by subscribing to this channel. Once you hit that subscribe button, we instantly become best friends.
Did we just become best friends? Yep!
And please go ahead and hit that notification bell so you know every time I post a video and you know when part 2 is coming. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off with these 3 pumpkins from Dollar Tree. All 3 of these are still available, and I went ahead and removed all of the accessories like the little bow, and this one had a cute little pumpkin which I am going to reuse, and I'm going to remove that little mesh. Even though I am going to paint the backside, I'm going to sand it down so it could adhere properly, and then I'm going to start painting them. I used a combination of goldenrod and vintage white to do my first pumpkin. The goldenrod I purchased at Target and vintage white was at Walmart. So I'm just going to mix the 2 colors up and give it a nice even coat. I really didn't mind that it looked a little messy because the whole point of this is to look really weathered and messy. Now I'm going to go in with a steel gray, and this is what I'm going to use to make the grooves on the pumpkins. And you don't have to be an artist, you're just literally drawing lines on the side. If you want to go and use one of the pumpkins that already has the lines and just trace over it, you can do that as well. But I think that the more messy it looks, the better the pumpkin looks. So I'm also going to paint the stem of this pumpkin that same color, and then I'm going to go in while everything is still wet and do a brown. Now this is nutmeg brown, also purchased at Walmart, and I'm going to go ahead and just blend that in to the top. Now for the other pumpkins, I used Cloudless. This is from Walmart, and I didn't mix that with anything because I like the color as is. But for this one, I did go ahead and use that same brown that I used for the stem, and I made the outlines using that. The gray would have just been a little too light. And now since the blue is still wet, I'm just going to go ahead and use the brown up top and make sure that I'm dragging some of the blue into it so it looks nice and dimensional. And now for the next pumpkin, I'm using a mossy green, and I'm just going to go ahead and mix it in with the blue that I had left over, and I'm painting over that. I think this color is so beautiful. And instead of using the brown to give the pumpkin its dimension, I'm just going to go ahead and use the same green but undiluted. So I thought this looked really good. And then I went ahead and used the brown up on the stem, making sure that I'm dragging in some of the green and combining all of the colors. I'm going to go ahead and let the pumpkins dry, and while that dries, it's time to assemble the actual sign. Now you can do this 2 ways. You can use these Dollar Tree signs, which are nice and sturdy, and you just have to sand off a little bit of that glitter and position them like this and secure them with popsicle sticks. But you can't use these outside and you'd be wasting the same amount of money, so I decided to use these stir sticks from Lowe's. It's all up to you and what's easier for you to get to. If you want to use the beware sign, then go for it. Just make sure that you don't put it outside. So I'm going to use 6 stir sticks for the top and make sure that it's nice and aligned. And before I move on to anything, I'm going to measure that out, and that measures out to 10 inches. So I am going to cut down some pieces that are 10 inches. Now the good thing is that this already is a ruler on the back side, so cutting it down is a breeze. You can do this by hand, however, I did use my saw. Now I am going to add a bottom row, so I am going to have a popsicle stick that goes directly in the middle. So I'm just measuring and placing it to where one hangs enough to cover the top and bottom piece. So I'm making my markings, and this will all make sense in just a second. I'm going to attach that using Gorilla Wood glue. Now you can use whatever adhesive you want. I just used Gorilla Wood glue for everything. I'm going to make sure that I add a really generous amount, and then I'm going to place it, making sure that my popsicle sticks are still aligned as I'm putting it in place. This is really important, and you'll see why when we create the entire piece. So now I'm going to add my other piece just to see that it's still where I want it, and I'm just going to go ahead and push that back a little bit. Like I said, it's really convenient that these are rulers because you always know if it's leveled or not. So now I'm going to add some to the top. I'm going to add 1 more piece, and I will tell you how many packs in the end that I used for this. So this part is not even, and that's okay because we're gonna cover that. I'm gonna add a generous amount of glue and place that below where the handles are. So this is what it should look like, and now we're gonna go ahead and build the second part to this. Now you do wanna let this dry a little bit so that your sticks don't shift. I probably should have done that because mine definitely did shift. I'm just gonna repeat the exact same steps. I'm gonna line 6 of my stir sticks and making sure that they are nice and straight and the parts with the handle are facing the other direction. And once I have that aligned, I'm going to check the alignment of everything and add my pieces. So I'm going to add that one middle piece that's supposed to bind the top and the bottom, and then one below that. We are going to add screws to all of this. It's going to be nice and secure. Trust me, I've had this in my front lawn for quite some time and nothing has happened to it. So now I'm going to add a generous amount of glue, spread that out, and add my pieces. I also added a piece to the bottom as well. I want to make sure that this is secure as possible and that none of the sticks are shifting out of place. So now I'm going to wait for it to dry, and I'm going to use this pack of tiny little screws. I think the entire pack was $1 and some change, and I'm going to add screws basically wherever I can to make this as secure as possible. With a drill, I'm going to make little pilot holes, and then I am just going to use a screwdriver to screw this in. I really don't want to split my wood, so I'm just taking my time with this. Since this is going to be outside, I just don't want any mishaps. So I'm adding them right where the 2 planks meet, and then on the side. By the way, I'm not drilling my pilot hole all the way through. It's just enough to be able to screw everything in comfortably. So now I'm going to use my 2 popsicle sticks that were left over from the packs that I am using, and I'm just going to create some more support by putting them across. Now, I didn't have any more screws left, but I just used a really generous amount of glue. And this really helped. So make sure that with your extra popsicle sticks, or stir sticks, sorry, that you are definitely putting this in place. Now that it's dry, I'm going to flip it over, and this is where you can tell that I didn't do a great job at keeping these aligned. So I'm going to just use a craft stick to mask that. It fits nicely like this, but I did use some that I had already cut down for a previous project and didn't work out, and I'm just going to glue that in place just to cover that up. I didn't do a stir stick since they're pretty thick, but I did do a stir stick up top. And now it is time to stain. I'm just going to use wood stain, but of course you can use watered down paint, coffee, all that jazz, where you can just leave it natural color. I'm using a foam brush from Dollar Tree to get into those nooks and crannies, and then I am going to take a rag and just kind of wipe everything down because this is a little too dark, but I do want to make sure that it gets all in those crevices. I'm going to make sure that I sand it, and I actually let it dry for a day or 2 because if not, it just kind of stays sticky. Now it's time for the fun part. You can go ahead and freehand hello fall or welcome home, whatever you want. I did use my Cricut, and these are the fonts that I used, and this is the measurement. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, that's totally okay. I'm going to link this video below. I show you how to use the app called Fonto, where you can use all the fonts that I'm using on the Cricut, and then I show you how to transfer it just using chalk. So I'll link that below. You definitely don't need a Cricut, but this is a little more time consuming. And for my Cricut, I am going to use the Dollar Tree book covers. I really do love using this because it's so cheap and you can see through it just like the Oracle stuff. The only issue is that because it doesn't come in a hard tube, it usually is all wrinkled. Now for the top, I'm going to use Dollar Tree contact paper to transfer it, and this works beautifully whether you are using the book cover or you're using Cricut brand stuff. So now I'm just going to peel it off, and as you can see, it peels off nicely. It transfers really well, even though these are really large stencils. So I just kind of help it by using my fingers and pushing along, and now I'm going to align it. Now this part isn't the middle because we are going to add pumpkins, so I'm going to actually put my L there. I regret not making the L a little bit bigger, but that's why I added a popsicle stick there instead of a stir stick, because I didn't want it to look a little bit too raised. I'm taking the edge of my scraper tool and just pushing the stencil really, really well in there. And now I'm going to go ahead and remove the transfer tape, making sure that everything is nice and in place. And I'm going to go over everything using my scraper tool yet again to make sure that nothing is going to bleed. Now I'm going to use this chalk paint and this little puffy foam brush from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to go straight down, not side to side, and I'm going to make sure that everything is stuck before moving on to the next letter. Now for that one L, that little area where you can see that there is a gap, I just went ahead and used a brush and I just went in the direction towards me, away from the bottom of the stencil, if that makes any sense. I know I'm not making sense, but you can see it. So I'm going to let this dry and then I'm going to remove it, and nothing bled, so I was really, really happy about that. So once it is removed, I'm going to go ahead and use some hot glue to add my pumpkins, and I'm just going to stack them. You can stack yours however you want depending on the size that you're using, but I think that this looks really good like this. I love that it pops out from the side so it looks a little 3D. Now to add more detail to it, I decided to add some of this Dollar Tree garland. I think it's so beautiful. I had used it in a previous project, so it was already cut up. So I just decided to just cut it up a little bit more and add the leaves and the little berries randomly just to kind of fill it up. And this is what it looks like in the end. I think it looks so gorgeous. Because of where I placed the top pumpkin, this ended up measuring 48 inches and I absolutely love it. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to give me a thumbs up and be sure to stick around for part 2 where I show you how I make the rest of my porch decor. So thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you on the next one.